Hey, everybody, it's David Nagel. Welcome to the Successful Mind podcast. I have an amazing guy here, Yan Stavisky. Wait till you hear his story. Like, for all of you that are trying to figure out how to hack resources, money in your life, credit in your life, travel in your life, this guy is 25 years old. He was $82,000 in debt 3 years ago. Now he's running a seven-figure company. And he did this while traveling through 47 countries for nearly free. So we got to hear exactly how he did this. And he knows how to leverage credit to produce cash flow. So I think that no matter where you are in your life, but especially if you're running a business, I'd like everybody to listen to this from two points of reference. One, what did he actually do? And two, what was the mindset that caused him to open up to discover this resource? Giannis, it's an honor to have you here, man. How you doing today?
Hey, man, thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.
Man, I wish I knew what you did when I was 25. That would have saved me a hell of a lot of trouble.
Man, I think if you ended up in the situation that I was at 22, I think you would have been forced to learn what I kind of learned right now.
So tell us about that. What happened when you were 22? What was the deal?
I got out of college with 2 degrees, one in finance, one in marketing, and I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, work for myself, never work for anybody. Since I was 10 years old, I always had little hustles, businesses, and I always was an entrepreneur at heart. And I believed, because nobody told me, that the best way to go about it is to go and start working for yourself right off the bat, learning everything yourself, doing everything yourself. And that was the biggest BS mistake that I could have ever made. It turned out to be a blessing in disguise now, but for most people, I think, it would probably break them and they wouldn't end up in a situation where I'm at right now. But I got out of college and I decided I wanted to start all these businesses and I wanted to see what sticks. So I did 5 at one time without any experience.
Businesses at one time.
Yeah. I was just looking on social media and I was like, man, these guys are driving Lambos. What do? So they do Shopify. What does this guy do? Oh, he does Amazon. He does real estate. All right, I'm going to do all these things. I'm going to see what sticks. Obviously, there's no chance that's possible when you got no experience, you got no resources, you got nothing. Who am I to go and start 5 companies at once and think anything is going to succeed with my focus being dispersed across 5 different things? Mind you, at the time, I'm making about $3,000 a month, doing about 60 hours a week, doing all these different hustles. I had a little fitness company. I was doing lessons one-to-one. I was doing swim classes. These were the only 2 things that were making me money because I was all about fitness my entire life. And I used to be a swimmer, went to the Air Force Academy for a couple months. I was going to be a Division I swim team and whatnot. So these were the 2 things that were making me about $3,000, $4,000 a month. And the businesses I was going to start to become a self-sufficient entrepreneur, so to speak, is I did Amazon, I did Shopify, I did real estate wholesaling, I did Tai Lopez's SMMA course so I can go and do Facebook ads for businesses. And I did something else, man. The point is I did all these things at once and my energy and my focus was dispersed across all these things. And
you're not short of ambition at all. That's like, hat off to you on that one.
Thank you. I'm not short of ambition, that's for sure. But the biggest mistake that I made here isn't that I started 5 businesses. It's not that I started Amazon or real estate. It's that instead of using income that I was making from a job that I could bear to lose, I started using my credit, which I had at 22 about maybe $100,000 in available credit. And that's because at 18, I started something called travel hacking, which is taking free flights, getting free hotels, leveraging credit card points. And for that, you need a bunch of credit cards. And I wasn't using it to spend money on anything, business or personal expenses. I was using the credit cards, open them up, get the points. There's ways to get the points without even spending any money. And so for that, I needed to open up credit cards back to back to back, which is actually much better for your credit score because banks want to see that you have a bunch of accounts in good standing as opposed to only 2 accounts in good standing. So the point is, I had a bunch of available credit, and I used all of this to go and start all these businesses. They never started. They were all losing me money.
Okay.
But the illusion was that I was super successful because I was taking all these free flights. I was flying business class to Dubai. I was flying business class to Japan. I was taking at the time about 40 flights a year.
Just on like on points and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you got those from opening up the cards.
Yeah, I mean, just like here's a little stack of, like, if you can see in the video, little daily cards.
Yeah.
I have right now about 60 credit cards.
Holy shit.
At the time, I had about maybe 40, something like that.
Okay.
So the point is, I started using my credit that I had no idea about. Like, I didn't know how APR was going to get raised when I stopped making payments. I didn't know how my credit lines were going to decrease if the bank thought the relationship was a little bit risky. I didn't know how badly I could possibly get screwed. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to use this credit. I got 100 grand in my mind. I had $100,000 to work with, and I did it on my personal credit too. I didn't even do it on my business. Where on business, it's not going to report back to your personal. So 6 months in, I racked up $82,000 worth of credit card debt that I was paying $4 grand in interest on every single month. And keep in mind, I'm still pulling in $3,000 a month from my hustles. And so at that point, I just, I basically hit rock bottom because I realized the situation that I'm in, it's impossible to get out with what I'm doing right now. Okay. There's no chance I'm going to be living in San Francisco where everything's crazy expensive. I still got a car payment. I still got food. I still got rent. And I'm losing $1,000 a month trying to do these businesses. And I have no safety net whatsoever. So that situation forced me to realize I got no skills. I am no better than anybody else. I honestly had a problem with humbling myself because the circle that I had at the time, they were not going anywhere. I mean, they were
friends, right? Friends. That's what you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah. I had nobody doing anything big around me. Everybody was either in a similar situation or was not helping me get anywhere positive.
Gotcha.
So I realized, man, my circle is trash. I got no skills. I got these 2 degrees, finance and marketing, that I thought I was going to go use and get a job if something didn't work out. But the reality was, after I applied to 150 different jobs, because I realized I got to go get some sort of an income, 2 people replied to me and they said, hey, you're not the right fit. We'll just keep in touch. After 150 applications went out.
Wow.
And the situation, like, I'm a very positive guy naturally, but that really, really, really put me down. I mean, I was thinking about going back to Russia. That's where I'm from. That's where I was born. And I came here when I was 7. I still got family back there. So I'm like, man, maybe I should just go back to Russia because my situation here is really not working out. I really screwed up over here.
Okay.
And so here's what I did. I was sitting in my car one day and I'm like, man, you got none of these things to make anything work. You got to get a skill. You got to get an income. And you got to stop trying to become an entrepreneur because you got nothing, none of the attributes that an entrepreneur requires. And on top of that, you got to figure out why you're getting screwed by the banks so bad. So 2 things I did for the next 6 months. I didn't talk to anybody. I dropped every single person that I was hanging out with. I stopped doing all these 5 businesses. I did nothing but finally land a sales job that I happened to get walking to an interview for some corporate BS. I just happened to walk in. They sent me an email on LinkedIn. I half read the email. I was just like, look, it's a meetup. Maybe there's an opportunity here. I showed up to the event. We happened to vibe really well because the guys happened to be Russian. I speak Russian. That was part of why, the opportunity came and I got the job. And it was actually for a crypto company that at the time, crypto was doing really well. So I was doing sales for this crypto company. And I knew it had to be sales because every single podcast that I was listening to by Grant Cardone or Ty Lopez or anybody else, they were like, sales is the number one skill that you need above all
100%.
else. Sales
100%.
is the number one thing. It's not, it's not about selling the product. It's about communication. That's what it is. No matter what you do, no matter what business you're in, you have to be a very good communicator. Otherwise, your products are not going to sell. The business is not going to grow. And so this sales job, I put all my energy into. I knew that, yes, I'm going to get an income if I become good at this. But more importantly, I'm going to get a skill that I can use for my personal businesses later. And I'm going to learn how to run a company, how to run a business. This was a startup. So it was like maybe 20 people at this company. But I could tell they were growing. So I could tell this was a perfect opportunity that if I get close to the founders, I'm really going to learn a lot. I'm going to make money, but I'm going to learn a lot.
Okay.
And so for 6 months, I did nothing but hustle at this sales job. I eventually started making about $10,000 to $15,000 a month, which was more money than I've ever made in my life. But more importantly, I could tell that my sales skill was actually coming out of the mud, so to speak. Opportunities were coming to me. I was actually closing deals. The first 3 months, I couldn't close shit. I was on the phone. I was on the emails. I was actually taking free flights to events using travel hacking to go get leads that nobody else was doing. And that's how I became number one in the sales company, because I was doing everything possible to get these leads.
I love it, man. You want a job? You want to come work for me? Christ, I see that attitude. I absolutely adore. Like I love that attitude because it's what you said, something that I think is interesting. Like, I don't have any of the skill sets to be an entrepreneur. And actually the root foundation of your thinking is exactly like an entrepreneur, and your wherewithal to figure out how to do something regardless of the situation. So I don't want to hog your story. So go ahead, but I just wanted to acknowledge that because I think it's great.
Well, I think the only reason why I had that attitude is because my situation got so bad and it forced me to be like, this is like, you either make it or that's it. I had no energy, and maybe I would have, but at that point I felt like I had no energy to go and fail at this again and then go start something new. I was just like, this has to friggin' happen. I'm not doing anything but closing these goddamn deals and learning from these people and honing down on my sales skill, because I know I want to always, like, my short-term, long-term goal is I want to work with myself. I want my own company. I want my own team. And for that, I need to learn, how are they running their team? How are they doing their marketing? How are they hiring? How are they firing? How do I close these $250,000 deals as somebody who couldn't even make $4,000 a month? Third month.
And you're 22, 23 at this point?
Yeah, I was 23 at that point.
That is an amazing mindset for a 23-year-old person, man. Like, we got to get into where that came from, but keep telling the story. Go ahead.
So the other thing I did besides the sales job, I knew I was getting screwed over by the banks. I knew I was paying crazy interest.
Okay.
And by the way, my credit score was at a 490 at the time. I was getting sued by 3 or 4 different banks for over $45,000. The rest was about to go into collections. I was about to just let it go. And I started learning credit repair because I tried to hire companies that were doing credit repair for me. Nothing happened. My score went down, actually. And so I started spending about 3 to 4 hours every single day learning how can I fix my credit. And the first thing I learned was that you do not pay collections that are with third-party debt collectors, because a lot of the times they can't legally collect this debt because it's not verified on their end. And the reason and the way they validate the debt is by harassing you with phone calls, telling you that, hey, if you just pay $1 or start a payment plan, then we're good.
Yeah.
But little do people know that's the way they legally validate that debt for you to legally have to pay it. until it's validated, they legally cannot collect. That's why there's a 4-year statute of limitations where if they have not collected for 4 years, legally they cannot collect anymore.
Wow. See, I didn't even know that. That's amazing.
Yeah. So if somebody has debt that's 4 years old that they haven't made payments on, that there's a statute of limitations where they can no longer collect anymore. And those accounts are pretty easily removable, you know? So I spent 6 months killing it at that sales job. And I only started killing it because I was putting all my energy into it. I was using my resources. I was taking flights to events that I wasn't even told to go to. Month 3, I ended up at Mike Tyson's old house because I connected these 2 people on accident, and they happened to be these VC fund investors that just picked up Mike Tyson's house, and I still got a cage, a tiger cage in the bottom. I'm like, man, life really changed in 3 months. In 3 months, I'm like, wow. And so this time I'm learning credit repair specifically. And finally, I got my credit from a 490 to a 750. I got rid of the collections that I had. I'm no longer being sued. And the rest of the debt, maybe $30,000, I paid off with the sales job. Okay. So 6 months in, it was a huge turning point for me because I was worth $0. And I could not have been happier to have absolutely nothing in my bank account because I knew my credit was on point now. I'm not being sued. I'm not paying $4,000 in interest to the banks every single month. I have an income now, but more importantly, I have a sales skill. I knew that was going to be the most powerful thing that came out of this thing.
Right.
I got the sales skill, and now I understand how freaking powerful credit can be in terms of leveraging it to go and start any sort of business, make an investment, and not get screwed along the way. And so what happened during the time that I was at the sales job, my network, my environment changed 150 freaking percent, because the people I was hanging out with 6 months prior were guys that were only about going and finding the next house party or going to the next freaking frat party, or like, you know, how do we go and pick up some beer so we can go and play Frisbee at the park or whatever.
Yeah. Pick up chicks and stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, that was like the main focus of these. Like, they just came out of college, and now that was my entire circle, honestly.
Yeah.
I was the only guy trying to break out of this, and anytime I would, my environment would just suck me back in. And I felt good because everybody was a loser around me, and I felt like I was doing way more than everybody. So I felt like I was moving somewhere, but in reality, I was moving nowhere.
What were they like? Tell everybody what they were saying to you. What were you hearing that sucked you back in? Like, what kind of comments were being made about what you were doing, who you know, like everything?
They were actually positive comments, which which made me feel like I was doing way more than enough. They were like,
oh, okay.
They were like, man, you're flying business class, you're doing all these things, you're so successful. And I'm like, yeah, I'm killing it.
So they're pumping your ego.
Yeah, they're pumping my ego. And the guys that were more successful than me that I happened to meet maybe on social media or at an event, they were like, you're not doing shit. And so to me, I was like, damn, I don't want to hear that. So let me just go back in my little bubble where everybody's kind of pumping me up, like, oh, you're so cool, you're doing this, you're doing that, you know. So that's what was happening in my circle. I think if somebody's an entrepreneur and they have potential and their circle is like mine, I think they're experiencing the same type of deal.
Yeah, nobody's calling you on your bullshit.
Nobody's calling me on my bullshit at all.
How did you? Let me just take a pause here for a second. How did you figure out how to do this travel hacking with all of this?
I started when I was 18 because one of my mentors said that the best way to go and experience life is to go travel young. That's how you're going to open up your mind. You're going to get experiences. You're going to meet people. You're going to get out of your bubble. And so at 18, I took a trip to Thailand. I spent all the money I had, which was like $3,000 or $2,000, whatever it was.
Okay.
I spent all of it, came back with like $10. But the trip was like, it was the best experience that I've ever had. I used to travel with family, well, when I was younger, but this was my first trip that I took on my own money, on my own time. I actually skipped my first couple classes of college to go on this trip. but the point is, I had an amazing time, and I wanted to keep doing this. I'm like, wow. I'm in Thailand. I'm at this moon party. I met some amazing people. I had an amazing experience. And I came back. I had no money, but I wanted to do it again. And American Express sent me an offer with a credit card for 100,000 points, that if I got this credit card and I spent $5,000 in a certain period of time, I will get these points that I can use for flights and hotels and whatever it is, travel related. And so one of my friends needed a MacBook, so I bought them a MacBook. They paid me back. So I met this $4,000 minimum spend, and I got these points. This was before I knew how to hack all these points and whatever it is without, doing crazy amount of spend. And so I took the same exact trip 3 months later because my buddy's like, hey, it's my birthday. You want to go to Thailand? I'm like, I literally just came back from Thailand, but I am 100% down because I have these points that I now use to buy a flight for free. I paid like $5 in fees for the flight. And then I got the hotel with points as well. The only thing I paid for was food in Thailand, which, as you might know, is crazy cheap.
Right.
And so I did this whole trip again, basically for free. And I came back and I'm like, wow, there's got to be a way to continue doing this. And that's how I started travel hacking, leveraging credit cards. And that's how I accrued about 100K in available credit, because I was signing up to these credit cards, maximizing the bonuses, getting statuses. And that's what I was doing the entire time I was going to college. I actually didn't go to most of my classes. I just was traveling the entire time.
Yeah. That's fun.
I basically made a deal with my professors during the 4 years I was in college. Hey, I'm going to attend the first day and the midterm and the final. And can you just give me a grade based on that? Because I have this deal that I just can't go to school.
Interesting. So now you have a 7-figure business, right? Like you turn this knowledge and your sales skill into a business, correct?
Yeah. What happened about a year after I got that sales job is 8 months in, I started using the network from that sales job. Guys were doing real estate deals. They were doing like single family flips. They were doing fourplex deals. Some guys were doing Amazon. Some guys were doing Shopify, and actually being successful in it. The one thing that I noticed they were missing is capital. Whenever they needed to scale the business, whenever they needed to do an extra real estate flip, they were missing capital, particularly for those kind of businesses. It's a little bit difficult to get a loan from the bank. Whereas multifamily, it could be a little bit easier, but single family 4-month flip where it's a risky investment, the bank is probably not going to give them any money.
Okay.
And if they do, it's at a very high interest. And what I learned after I got my credit straight, because I already had a bunch of available credit, that any applications that I make are going to be decently high credit limits, because I already had a history of having high credit limits and being responsible with them, because I wiped everything that was negative off my credit report. And the first major thing I learned was how to go and get 0% capital, where you don't have to pay any interest for a period of 12 to 15 months. And I was able to get this and liquidate it into cash, which is something that everybody should know, that if you get a credit card with a 0% offer, you can liquidate it into cash and use it for an investment. There are different ways to do it. There are basic, advanced ways to do it, and they always change. But people should know that this is actually possible. And what I started doing is I leveraged my personal credit to go and scale my business credit. because on the business side, it does not report utilization to your personal, so it doesn't screw up your credit score. And if something does happen on the business side, it doesn't hurt your personal credit.
Right.
So if something happens on the business side, you can go and use your personal credit and go and start another LLC and scale that business credit profile. Okay. Right. And so what I started doing is getting 0% capital from these banks. I was getting about 50 to 70K at a time. And I was watching these guys that were doing these real estate deals. This is what I started with initially. And they were just back-to-back profitable. Back-to-back profitable. And I approached them and I said, hey, I can give you guys 50K for this deal. I just want a 10% cut because I know the bank is charging you 15%. So I want this cut of whatever profit you make. And I started doing these deals and it was profitable. Yes, it was risky, but I was watching these guys for quite a long time being profitable back to back.
Yeah, you had some history on them. That's cool.
Yeah. Whereas if you go and meet some random person, that's quite risky, especially if you could do the same thing on your personal credit. That's even more risky. And so I started making money this way. And then I ventured into Amazon a little bit, still working kind of as a bank funding these deals. And I realized at one point, I'm making more money than my 6-figure sales job doing these deals, leveraging the bank's money, not paying them a single fee because I'm going and liquidating $150,000 that I'm using for deals and just kind of cycling that money around for a period of 12 months. And I'm like, wow. So that was another big turning point where I said, it's time to quit my sales job because I now got a skill. I know how to close deals. I'm very comfortable closing $250,000 deals now for this company. And I actually put on my LinkedIn, it's still there. I put U.S. operations. I was actually a manager of like one small district, but I put U.S. operations. And so everybody that was looking to partner with that startup was reaching out to me because they didn't want to reach out to the team in Moscow because they thought that was a little bit sketchy. The company's good. I got nothing bad to say about them. Awesome company. They were all reaching out to me. So I started doing these bigger and bigger deals. So I'm like, at this point, I'm very comfortable leaving this job, starting my own business. I have an income that I can test with. I'm already making more money doing these other deals that I'm no longer hustling 60 hours a week for. And so I left that sales job and I went back to travel hacking. And I'm now traveling the world. I'm making, 6 figures at the time. But the point is, I'm back to where I kind of started, but I've actually now met my original goal, which was to be wherever you want to be on this planet and still making money without having to go and slave away your time at one location and not have the freedom to go to Thailand just like I wanted to when I was 18 and do it over and over and over again. Right. The big thing I was missing was income, and income without having to go and slave at a 9-to-5. And so I did this for about 6 months. And then I'm like, I was taking a trip a week. A trip a week. A trip a week. I was never home. Wow. Like I had a property in San Francisco that I kind of Airbnb'd or leased out. I had one room in there. I was never there. I was traveling all over the place. To date, I've traveled to about 47 countries. That's and man, it was the life for a bit. And then I got tired and I'm like, all right, I got to make some bigger moves. And so 2019, I went to Grant Cardone's event at Miami, 10X. And I'm seeing all these guys, like they're starting programs, they're teaching people, they're helping people, and their reach is further than themselves. And I'm seeing them do it on social media. And at the time, I was focusing on just fitness on my social media. I didn't have any followers, nothing like that. But I knew a couple things. I knew how to do credit repair. I knew how to leverage credit, personal and business. And I knew how to get free business class flights and travel the world for free. And I didn't realize people wanted to know this information until I went to this event and I'm seeing people teach all these things that they know. And so at that event, I decided to start a test group for teaching this information. And what I did at that event is my goal was talk to 300 people every single day, give them some sort of value, and propose for them to be my test group where they're gonna learn credit repair, travel hacking, and leveraging credit. Out of these 600 people that I talked to during that event, I got 7 people to agree to pay me $1,000 to be in my test group without having any content at all. And that's how I started my program that now did over 7 figures in the last 12 months. But I started it and I was really motivated because after I put out a week's worth of content for those 7 people, I'm like, let me know what you think of this. If you think this is garbage, if you think you don't get any value out of it, I'm going to give you your money back. I'm not going to do this business. But what happened was these guys called me up and they gave me their feedback. And they said, man, I've never got so much freaking value out of $1,000. One guy was like, I would have paid you $5,000 because what I learned in terms of leveraging credit on the business side for my business saved me 50 grand in interest is going to save me 50 grand in interest over the next 2 years.
Wow.
And so I started that program. It was March of 2019.
Okay.
And I started it on Instagram. There's no website. There's no funnel. I've never spent $1 on ads. It all happened with organic content. And it only became successful because I had that sales job. I learned how to speak. I learned sales. I knew how to close deals. My environment was on point now. I didn't have a bunch of doofuses around me. I had actually people that were making moves around me. So, that environment, these skills, my ambition now came back, and that program that I started, it did like 25K the second week because I actually did a public opening on my social media, which I had 7,000 followers at the time.
Okay.
I had 7,000 followers at the time, and I did no ad spend. I just used the skills that I have, the energy that I have, the connections that I have, and I put all of this out on social media with the purpose of helping other people, bringing value, and at the same time making a business out of it.
Yeah.
And what I did in the beginning, because I wanted to show my value, is every single person that joined, I gave them a 1-hour call, a 1-hour face-to-face call. And I'm like, I'm going to do this for a month. I just want to show people value. This is a crazy amount of work, but I just want to show people value. I ended up doing this for 12 months. Last year, I did 750 one-to-one 1-hour calls.
Jesus.
And I only did this because probably every other call, I would get like such amazing feedback that, hey, like this, I got my credit straight. I was able to go actually buy a house. I was able to go, get a job because my job was checking my credit. A lot of these things, but there were also anomalies where, hey, I started my Amazon business and I'm doing 6 figures a month just because I learned how to leverage business credit from what you teach. And that motivated me to go and do 750 1-hour one-to-one calls with people the entire year. I'm not doing that anymore because I would have literally probably passed out doing
you
it.
know what? You did things that made you good at what you do. Like you dove in huge, and that shortens the learning curve incredibly.
100%. And doing those one-to-one calls really gave me a perspective of any possible problems that anybody has and how to solve them. It wasn't just my problems anymore. It was these 700 other people's problems that I know exist. I know how to solve them. I know how to combat them. But yeah, I continue doing these real estate deals, e-com deals. And where I'm at right now is I kind of backed off of those quite a bit because I'm moving into multifamily real estate because I'm at a point where I've scaled my business. and now scaling my corporate credit to the point where I can go and do multi-million-dollar deals when the deal comes.
Yeah.
But I'm no real estate pro whatsoever. I've been doing, single family, fourplex, nothing big. So what I'm focusing on right now is going and finding people that are doing massive deals, that have experience, and learning from them. Because I know if I dive in by myself, just like I did at 22, I will fail hard. I'll probably lose my credit, my money, everything,
Right.
So what I'm doing right now is I'm learning. I am paying for information. I'm giving value in exchange for value. And when the time is right, I don't think it is right now. Real estate really hasn't taken a hit right now.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to be making a big move on multifamily real estate, and continue doing what I'm doing, which is when this quarantine's done, I'm going to be back to traveling. I'm going to be back to making crazy content and just scaling everything that I'm doing. The 5-year goal is to have $100K in passive income every single month from multifamily real estate alone. Not talking about the businesses.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, that's fantastic. Like, congratulations. One of the things that I'm really admiring about you is this idea of, no matter what, figuring out the answer and doing it in a way that leverages your own learning curve to be able to go bigger, constantly go bigger without you actually taking on the burden of trading time for money, where you get stuck in that loop that you can't ever get out of. Like, nobody, unless you do something completely different, nobody ever gets out of that crazy loop. And you've solved a major issue that so many people can benefit from, because, like most businesses, they don't have a cash flow. They don't have a capital, right? They're bootstrapping going in, and there's people that have great ideas, but they don't have the funding to be able to do it. And you're coming up with ways to be able to solve that problem for individuals. Now, are you still taking on personal clients right now?
Yeah, I am for the program. For the program. By the way, so like I said, there's no website, there's no funnel.
Okay.
Everything is on Instagram. There's Instagram close friends, and all the content's in there. And I did this for the purpose of keeping that one-to-one support type deal where anybody can go ask questions, they can get support, they can get anything clarified. I didn't want to put it on a website where people go and, get content, try to learn something, they don't understand something, and then they give up because they got nobody to reach out to. I made it so the content is on Instagram, and if they had questions, if they need help with a funding sequence, if they need help figuring out how to get the free flights, all they do is simply reach out on the DMs, and they get an answer same day from my support team, either myself or my support team. So I made everything like without much effort. There's no resistance,
Super easy, low cost, very little overhead.
Yeah, but the major thing is the execution level of my students is so high because there's no resistance to reaching out to some email support or going to some website for content. Everybody's on Instagram already anyways.
Right.
All you got to do is go to the page and see the content immediately. And whenever new content comes out, they see it immediately. Like, it's not like some email notification. I got none of that stuff. I've never paid $1 in ad spend. Everything is organic content. Everything is easy, and everything is made so that people can actually execute on the teachings.
That's awesome. How do people get a hold of you?
Best way is Instagram. It's @king.credit.
@king.credit. And we're going to put the link in the drop down for this also. Just emphasize again the importance of cleaning up your environment to get your head right.
With a lot of people, it's very tough because they make the excuse that, hey, we grew up together. Hey, it's family. Hey, they're super nice. I don't want to be mean to them. That mentality is going to get you nowhere. It's going to get you nowhere, and it's going to get you probably sunk into a deeper hole. But the way to do it is you got to find people that are doing what you're doing, and you got to get around them. A lot of the times that means leaving your city, leaving your bubble, literally making it hard to connect with the people that are not helping you get to where you want to go.
Yeah.
For me, I grew up in Orange County, and I first moved to San Francisco, but I got around the same type of people again because I had no understanding of what had to be done. I had no understanding of, hey, you need to go and get a skill. You need to go and learn how to run a business. The only thing I was doing was I was sitting on Instagram, trying to take a course here and there and not doing anything else.
Right.
If, whatever anybody wants to do, they should first, my personal suggestion is they should go and get themselves a sales job. A sales job, not at a big corporation, but at a startup where they can be close to the founders. They can be, they can actually show their worth by getting paid in commission, based on their work ethic and based on the value they bring. Get close to the founders, get that skill, get that income, get that environment. My environment at that sales job was only CEOs, founders, other business managers, people that were actually doing things. I had no possibility of even hanging around with some bozo because I was spending all my time at the sales job, flying around, trying to bring value to people. 3 months in, I was in Vegas. After that Mike Tyson deal, I met 2 billionaires that night, 2 crypto billionaires that night.
Wow.
One of the guys was founder of EOS. It's like a top 10 cryptocurrency, raised billions. He was at that event. The next day, I had a one-to-one with a guy that was doing payment processing in Dubai, worth about $150 million. And that was the first time I ever really had a personal conversation with somebody that's worth that much money. I still got a cigar sitting on my table that he gave me as kind of memorabilia.
That's awesome, man.
So just if somebody wants to get their environment right, they got to just 100% take a dive into an environment that's in line with their goals. That environment was in line with my goals because I wanted to run a business, and that startup helped me understand because I can get close to the founders and see how they're running the business. If I went to go work for a corporate company, that wouldn't have happened. There's no chance I would have been able to go up the chain, get close to the founders, show my worth, show my value. No chance.
I agree. I totally agree. Well, wherever this mindset came from, whether it's partly coming over from Russia and having a can-do attitude and listening to people like Grant and others, you're going to go really far with what you're laying a mindset foundation for yourself that is rock solid. And you start to realize you can figure out anything if you just put your mind to it and you create the right environment and the right opportunities for yourself. So congratulations on what you're doing. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, everybody, go check out his Instagram. I would listen to this over and over again. There's a lot of messages here on what this guy is doing. The hustle is tremendous. The mindset is tremendous. I totally agree with the environment. I totally agree with the sales. And make it work for you. And check out his stuff and see if it applies to what you need to maybe travel hack or you figure out how to fund something that you need money for. Yan, it's been a real pleasure, man. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye.